This is Scary Ideas, Episode 6, a podcast no one asked for, yet here it is. Here's the opening diatribe. I'm very problematic. I do stand-up comedy on an amateur level, so I get called sexist a lot. There are people that know me as only being a bad person. Man, is it fun. I don't defend myself at all. I just go, yeah, I'm sexist. Let's get to know each other. I take it as flirtation. I dabble in astrology when it's convenient. Like if someone hot is into me, I tell them right away I'm a Scorpio because it means I'm good at sex. If someone attractive is into me and we have a compatible sign, yeah, it's kind of cool. If they're unattractive, I don't bring it up. I don't bring up that I'm a Scorpio. Because I don't want to advertise that I know my way around any pussy thrown at me. That's what Scorpios are known for, being horny. I'm attracted to women who think I'm funny. If you don't think I'm funny, I don't want to fuck you. I like to get laughs during sex. Not just in between sex. During them. During the sex. I don't catcall women, because that shit is harassment. It's also kind of natural to want to do it. So I do defend it in a weird way because animals do it. Humans are supposed to be better than animals, though, which I respect to some degree. You can just go around. You can't just... Oh, I was supposed to say can't. You can't just go around sexually harassing people. I'm also into women who have a problem with men like me. I'm a man, by the way. People consider me a man. There's something very alluring about getting them to come around, like to get them to see me as not evil and make them realize that I'm actually complex and have emotional intelligence. That's what I'm into. I'm into turning them around so that, like, moving on. I'm not in the Yang gang. A lot of angry men are. I'm an angry man. I just don't think Andrew Yang has enough clout to compete with Trump, like on a personality level. I was talking about this to some guy at an open mic who was extremely pissed off for some reason. Like, Trump's considered a bad president by a lot of people, but most people who hate him just say he's dumb and has small hands and bad hair. They just attack him for personal reasons. It's kind of childish. Doesn't mean all Trump supporters are good or smart. Many of them are probably bigots. I don't know. I wouldn't know. I've only met like 2 in my whole life because I live in Chicago. Something I know about Trump supporters, though, is they cannot be shamed easily. That's kind of why they became Republicans. They don't care what other people think. That's just true. Someone tried to shame me into voting for Bernie. Like, they thought they could undo all the hours of YouTube videos I watched to get where I am in a 10-minute conversation just by scowling at me and not refuting any of my arguments. They just thought because they're an attractive woman and they're giving me dirty looks, I just fall into being a cuck. I was like, you're not that hot. You ain't that hot. I'm not dogmatic. Like, I just need someone to actually convince me that I'm wrong, not just shame me. I said the N-word last night while on stage at an open mic. I'm not proud of the fact that I said it. I'm proud of the fact that I got away with it. Like, I was at another open mic where someone said the N-word and didn't get away with it, a white guy. This mic, you're kind of allowed to say. Like, they give you an extra minute if a white person says the N-word. It doesn't mean I wouldn't have said it anyway. It was just that made it kind of easier to get away with. I was at this open mic where somebody said the N-word and did not get away with it. They got reprimanded very harshly, and I was hanging out with them afterwards because, to be honest, they gained my entire respect by doing that, so I had to tell them, yo, dude, that was brave. And they were afraid to walk home because they were literally that paranoid that someone's going to like follow them home because they said that. And I was like, don't be afraid that you said the N-word. Be afraid that you're walking home from Uptown at 1 a.m. That's the real thing. So I said something that's, true, but it's, I don't know. Speaking of feminism, some women complain about not being able to show their nips in public. Nips is short for nipples. In public, or they're not allowed to do it on social media and stuff like that, while men are. And that's a fair point, especially since no one really likes seeing men's nipples, so I get it. But also, women's nipples make men very horny. I don't know if that's a revelation or something, but it's true. So that's why it's considered indecent. Sorry to break it to you, and I like that breasts are considered hot. I don't want it to be normalized. I don't want them to be desexualized because I'm a breast fetishist. I'm also a breast fascist in that I'm ultra into them. I'm an ultra nationalistic person that is patriotic for breasts. I also suppress opposition to them, and I'm a very authoritarian. I'm an authority on them. Okay, that's enough. Let's start the show. Wait, never mind. This is the show. I'm trying to get some new callers, like ones that really like disagree with me, like viciously. Like I want to look bad tonight, like so bad that I'm afraid to put this out. But then again, it's live, so I guess I can't really prevent it from going out. But that's kind of fun because you gotta be worried about stuff. Anyway, we got a call-in number. So hopefully we'll get like at least one caller tonight. I asked like 40 people, and I think that's enough. It is hard to get someone on who truly has something to say that goes against me. Like usually people, even the ones who disagree with me so far, we've had very polite conversations so far. Like this podcast is not big enough yet where I'm trying to like make people feel bad for calling. I want to be friendly with people. But also everyone has been friendly with me. So I have no reason. If they were not that way, maybe I would be a dick back. But so far, I've been pretty freaking nice. I was at a bar last night where they had Truly on tap. It's true. I didn't think that was possible. Like, I made a joke about how a place should have White Claw on tap, and I didn't think they actually did, because Truly is like the same thing as White Claw. And I don't, like, I mentioned on this podcast the concept of drink shaming, like shaming people for the type of drink they order, and I'm sick of it, dude. I've been getting drink shamed for the past month, ever since I became a fan of White Claw, because I order it in bars that definitely are not welcoming to that mindset or that personality type. Because if you get drunk on White Claw, it's the very like slow build up to getting drunk, and then you start to act a fool. So anyway, this place had Truly on tap, and they also served these mixed Truly drinks. Like you could build your own mixed drink with Truly. So I was like, hey, I'll take a Truly with vodka. And they're like, we don't sell that. I was like, yeah, you do. You have a poster that says you sell it. And I could see the draft right there. It says Truly on it. All you have to do is pull the lever, it'll come out. And he was like, who said we have that? I was like, the waitress or whatever, whatever you call bartenders who walk around the place. I guess they're just called servers. They were like, oh, that person doesn't work here. Like, they were negging me. They went beyond shaming me. They made me feel like I wasn't just a douchebag who likes White Claw. They made me feel like I wasn't even a smart human being. They made me feel like I had a very low IQ and was like in the wrong place and was like a dumb child looking through a Crayola coloring book. And man, was I offended, because I wanted the drink. And so they finally gave it to me, and they were like, enjoy your hangover. I'm not going to get hungover off one drink. I don't care how strong it is. Even if it was like filled up with vodka. Okay, yeah, that would fuck me up. That would get me hungover. But getting hungover off one drink, that's not going to happen. So I was fine. It was just a good way to get drunk faster. But I get why they would not want to serve like more than one of those to the same person. Because then you would be off the banana cake, off the banana wall. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of sick of... All right, enough of this. Let's talk to our first caller. Hello, thanks for calling.
That's not going to happen.
What is your name?
I was fine. It was just a good way to get...
Hello? All right, that was our first wrong number or butt dial or call. There's like some dude just like talking to somebody else. But hey, it takes courage to call into this. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. I'm getting sick of... I'm actually doing the podcast for the first time not drunk. Because, like, dude, it's boring talking to yourself for an hour and a half. But when you're drunk, it's like, oh, this is a fun game. Especially when you have a good caller. But so far, we've only had an accidental caller. And I can't call him back. I would never do that. This is a call-in show, not call-out. I don't call people on this. All right, they're calling back. Let's see if they figured it out. Hey, how's it going? What's your name?
Hey, this is John.
Oh, it's John. Okay, how's it going?
But
Where you calling from?
Calling from Chicago, Illinois. I want to talk to Tim.
Okay, that's me. Yeah, you're on the air right now on Scary Ideas. Do you have any scary ideas you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I mean, the scariest idea is you. Okay, you know, you're coming on. I mean, first off, truly astute observations you got there, Tim.
Yeah.
On you know, that little story about you at the bar.
Yeah.
Really great stuff. Good thing you have a podcast for this.
It's astute. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Thank God, dude. If I didn't have a podcast, nobody would have heard that story.
No, I mean, I don't think anybody, you know, you're just lucky I happened to be, you know, scrolling through Facebook when I saw that this was going live. So, you know, I mean, thank God you're here to tell us these stories about you, you know, going to bars and you know, wait staff thinking, I mean, what'd you say? You thought they thought you were a child?
They made me feel like a child.
Well, no, I mean, I think that's warranted. I mean, look at this whole show you have. I mean, you're spouting I mean, first off,
yeah.
Physically, I would think, you know, I've seen you before. I've seen you out in the wild.
Oh, boy.
I think you're a child all the time. All right? You little twerp. All right, and then next,
yeah.
Okay?
Go ahead.
These opinions you have. I mean, it's childish. You do know. Are you familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect?
You may, relating to which opinion specifically?
Yours in general.
All of them?
Let's say, yeah, because I mean, you're spanning it all, you know, with no depth.
That's true. That's why I like to let callers like you call in to do exactly what you're doing now, which is to tell me that I need to be a little more, you know, I don't know, well-researched, or give me an example of a topic you'd like to talk about.
Okay. So,
besides me
you know,
being a fucking... Yeah, go ahead.
No. You finish your thought. No, I want to hear your thought on what I said about you.
No, I agree. I do. I look like a kid. I have the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's in play with many of these opinions. They're very surface level. I take stabs at very controversial topics. But hey, it triggered somebody to call in. Yeah,
it did. Yeah, I mean, just having a podcast with stabs. I mean, okay, you know, let's get into it. I mean,
yeah.
First off, your thoughts on astrology. I mean, who do you think you are to just, you know, like, first off, I'm a Scorpio.
Oh, shit.
I get it. We're dark. We're mysterious. We're sexual.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to take advantage of that.
What do you mean by take advantage of it?
Using it to seem more sexual to ladies, that's bullshit, okay? I mean, I have a girlfriend. She's very into astrology. She's schooled me. I'm going to admit, you know, before we get into this too much, I'm not an expert on astrology. You hear what I just did? I just said I'm not an expert on astrology.
That's okay. I mean, I'm definitely not an expert on it. I don't know shit except for that it feels good to know that I'm one of the most significant signs. Like, people could just guess I'm a Scorpio just by looking into my eyes.
See, well, I mean, even that right there, like, you know, the worst parts of my mentality want to agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just say that whatever you are is the best that there is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you on that. But as a human, I need to take a step back and look at my thoughts and say, you know what? Being one thing is not necessarily better than the others. I can't tout
Fair enough.
who I am and my star sign.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's
Okay.
a mixed bag. Saying that it's the best sign, I don't know about that. It's just one that kind of peaks, has a big. It's very noticeable. It's not necessarily a good thing to be whatever it has a lot of negative attributes, but I'm proud of them. I'm proud.
What
about you?
Which attributes? Which ones are you talking about?
Like the fact that I'm sexual, that feels like it could translate into knowledge. Like, you're not born with sexual knowledge, you're just born being a Scorpio who's horny. But that also lends itself to experiences that could make you good at sex, I think.
Tell me about them. I want to hear about this.
Okay. I mean, I've never had anyone say that I was horrible at it.
Do you think people can be nice and empathetic and not want to, you know, be confrontational and tell someone something like that?
They would not be confrontational with it. They would tell me, okay, maybe just try to be a little bit more this way. What about, like, a lot of people that I've been with, they like to be, some of them like to be dominated, and I'm bad at that. I'll admit that I'm not good at that. I'm more of like a tenderizer when it comes to being sexual. What about you? You're a Scorpio.
Yeah, I'm a Scorpio. You know, no one's ever told me I'm bad at sex either. You know, but that doesn't mean I got to talk about it.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
Good
it's
at
not
sex
a club I
club.
necessarily want to be a part of.
Why not?
All right. Well, you know, because first off, I mean, I'm uncomfortable even talking about it this way right now.
We're two dudes, dude. We're two. You're a straight guy. This is just locker room.
You don't know that.
This is just public.
You don't know that.
You said you have. Okay, so you might be more than. You might not be straight. That's fair. You might be something. How do you identify? Do you?
That's none of your damn business.
Fair. I knew you were gonna say that.
But don't say I'm gay. Do not.
Would that offend you if someone just straight up? Yeah, it's a weird thing to.
Yeah.
It's a weird
probably.
insult.
It is.
I've never used it as an insult. You know, like, I don't care.
All right, because you know, growing up, like, it was an insult a lot.
Yeah, but not. It was like just when you call someone gay as an insult, it's usually not because they're actually gay. It's because it's a fun word to say. Same with any bad.
So are you
word.
one of these guys? So I mean, if we're gonna go into that realm now,
Yeah.
So what would you say? So would you? If someone just does something mildly feminine, do you call them gay, or do you just?
Oh, if they do something mildly feminine, no, I don't call them gay because
traditionally, classically feminine.
Sure, I mean, that would be kind of an ignorant. It just sounds kind of very bigoted, or because then you kind of are saying that you don't accept them for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would never call someone gay if they're as an insult if they're acting feminine. I might think they're a little bit. I might think they're gay.
Fuck. Sorry, I'm cooking short ribs right now, and I burnt my hand.
Oh shit, dude! You're doing great.
Anyways, go on.
Considering that you're cooking and also on the radio, you're doing pretty well.
Well, if you keep your mind open to things and just don't close them off because you read some shit on the internet, you know, you can do a lot.
Have you read anything on the internet that kind of pissed you off recently?
No, because I read books, okay? I like reading complete thoughts. I don't like reading blurbs. I don't like watching biased YouTube documentaries on, Pizzagate.
It's probably a good idea. Yeah, you sound like an intellectual.
I think it's funny you say that. I mean, I do, you know, they say Scorpios are. See, this is an example. They say Scorpios are intellectuals. They crave knowledge. This is what my girlfriend has told me. Well, actually, last week on our anniversary dinner, where I also made beef short rib. But she said, you know, I seek out knowledge, you know, and I want to know why things happen, and I'm proud of that one.
Yeah, we're deep. Are you an introvert? Are you a smart introverted man?
What are the classifications again?
I don't know. I just read this Medium article about how you should not fall in love with smart introverted men. Because they are very mysterious and they will turn on you. They will eventually break up with you. Are you one of those?
I mean, I do tend to break up with people.
Wow, we just revealed something about your personal life, your interpersonal life.
I mean, who doesn't, man? I mean, things don't always match up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's okay. You know, my therapist told me that it's okay. No, you are not required to be in a relationship with anyone you don't want to be in a relationship with. And that's
absolutely.
what I say whenever I break up with girls.
That's a pretty harsh thing to say. I'm sure you don't say it. I'm sure you say it in a much smoother way than that. You don't just say that on a card or something.
I mean, I kind of just say that. It's almost on muscle memory at this point.
Well, I'm impressed.
I mean, that's the way. And it's not with disrespect to them. It's not, you know, it's respect for myself.
I mean, we got to have self-respect. Self-respect, as I've said on this podcast before, is a dying art form. What do you think?
I would agree with you there.
A lot of pussy men out there and women who do not respect themselves.
How are you gonna give respect?
Yeah.
If you don't give it to yourself first, you know.
So it turns out
if you want to get respect, you got to give respect, and you can't give respect until you know how to give it to yourself.
What do you think of what do you think of polyamory?
You know,
as you're cooking the short ribs, you're coming around on it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think it's a sign of, you know, it's a new classification of free love. I think, you know, I think you know, back in Woodstock times.
In Woodstock times. There was no joke.
Yeah, you know, you know, I mean, I think, you know, you can be, you know, with someone mentally, but you know, crave physicality of others.
So you agree with it as a concept, but could you actually do it yourself? You think?
I don't know. I've never put myself in that situation.
Are you a possessive man?
Not really. I don't possess much.
Gotcha.
I do have a nice car. I do have a nice house.
I guess I just meant
do have a
women.
nice stand mixer.
Nice mix, yeah.
I do have a lot of books, as I said.
Well, I like that you called it with a fake name, so that means we should probably keep arguing. Like, let's go back to things that you really don't like about me.
Okay. Well, let's see. I mean, I listened to some of your stand-up special.
Uh-huh.
And, I mean...
That's right. You couldn't get through it.
No, I couldn't get through it. and it wasn't... I mean, I try to get through stuff I don't like. Like, you know...
Which part was the worst part? Which? Yeah. What?
My girlfriend brought up Princess Bride, and you know, I didn't like that, and I tried to get through it. You know, I got through it, but your special was no Princess Bride.
I mean, those are really weird things to compare. Princess Bride, that's a classic movie from like the 80s, or like a lot of kids or millennials love that movie. And millennials are just grown-up kids. Yeah, millennials are just kids.
The part with the big rats.
I don't remember anything about that fucking movie, to be honest. I don't even remember
Are you serious?
You
should watch it. I mean, I turned around on it at the end. Towards the end, you know, I didn't like all the weird scenes with the grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. You know, Tim, I'm starting to feel like maybe my mind's not open.
Fair enough. Well, I appreciate you calling. How are the ribs coming?
Ribs are about done.
About done. Nice.
Yeah,
Dude.
I got to bring him to a going away party. A very close friend is leaving.
Good. Good that they're leaving. That's what I mean by that. Good. I like when people leave.
I think it's good. I think it's good for people to go live their own adventure.
Enough gentrification, enough people raising up the property taxes here.
I mean, I guess.
I'm assuming the person leaving is a millionaire, so that's why I say that.
Yeah, I mean, they do have a lot of money. They're doing well. They're actually about to go do a fellowship in cardiology. And,
ooh.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
that's
how do you
impressive.
feel about healthcare?
Oh, dude, I love that it's expensive, because then it keeps poor people from not affording it, and then boom, less poor people to deal with, because they get sick and die. Was that insensitive?
So do you think? How about this? I mean, I just got my CPR certification the other day. How do you feel about that?
You got your okay. What does that mean? What kind of certificate?
So basically, someone's heart stops.
Ah. Oh, okay.
So, and then this is an effort to bring them back. Do you think people, if fate has brought them, whatever is, brought them to a heart stopping, be it random fate, which actually does happen a fair amount, especially if they meet the demographics of someone, that has heart problems, or, lifestyle choices can lead to heart issues. I'm sure you know.
Right.
But the point is, there's a common ethical dilemma in healthcare of, do you help people fight to live longer, or when it's time, you let them go?
Shit, that's deep. It's a heavy subject. Yeah, if you want me to let you go, and then I could just talk about that. That sounds good. You gave me some.
Yeah, I better get back to. Yeah, these ribs are
cool, man. Well, thanks for calling in, John.
Burning.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks, Tim, for hearing me out.
Absolutely.
I hope people will listen to this.
It started out hostile, but then we came around, just like I like to do with feminists.
Okay. Well, have a good night.
Sounds good. Take it easy. Peace.
Whatever.
Whatever. Cool. That was our first caller. He was a nice guy, it turns out. Like he started off a little bit antagonistic there, but we all do. We don't. I mean, I thought it was actually going to be like someone truly mad at me for talking about truly, but that's hard to find on these parts. I'm sure I'll get somebody eventually. Just got to schedule them ahead of time. I pretty much just ask people the day of, and most people say, no, it's a Saturday night. I will not be available. That's the most busy time I'm ever busy, except for weekdays. But I don't know, I could do this at 12 p.m. on a Sunday. That'd be the best time to do this. Our last caller was really good. He tried to maintain anger, I think, but then he saw how sympathetic I am to his anger that it just made him melt into my arms. Because that's kind of like I was saying when the phone call ended, is that I like when a feminist woman is very heated against me and thinks I'm a sexist pig, and then they find out that I am that, but in addition to that, I also have a big heart. You could do life is complicated, dude. If you treat people with kindness, that's pretty much the most important quality, I think, to interpersonal reality. Even if you have the most bigoted opinions, which I don't, but if I did, so what? Don't shame me. I'm not going in line with you just because you think it's ugly to have these opinions. Bernie Sanders, I'm sorry, but for me to like him, you gotta actually say something that qualifies as an argument against my opinions. Otherwise, it's pretty easy to win these arguments. I don't even think I'm that good at defending myself. I'm pretty bad at knowing basic facts and data about politics. It's just that everyone else is also really bad at that. so they never feel like I'm losing an argument. I can't think of a time recently that I've had a political argument where I felt bad, that I did a bad job. I've had many where I felt like I did a good job. Like talking to these woke-ass people, the woker they are, it seems like the more they don't know about what they're talking about. They just like the feeling of being radically against the opposition. And I get that. It's fun to build up a wall around you, between you, a wall between you and the opposition. Not a literal wall, but we could talk about walls. I don't think the Trump wall is really happening yet. Anyway, so we talked about drink shaming. That guy, like I was saying, he tried to. He's a nice guy. He's making ribs, dude. Let's let him live his life, dude. I will accept calls from pretty much anyone. Like, like someone who's never seen me before. That's probably good. I've never talked to a stranger. That guy was a stranger, but not a perfect stranger. He was just some guy named John. It's so fucking mysterious. And he's a Scorpio. Anyway, so I did a set a couple days ago, as in last night is what I really meant to say. And I did a joke about, it wasn't even a joke. It was just a story. It wasn't even a story. It was about it was about Tinder and me matching with a trans woman on Tinder. So let's play some of that.
It's a dating app for me. I'm trying to get some hot, young, conservative women with the same exact opinions as me. That's who I fuck.
That's who I fuck.
Actually, no. I'm on Tinder. I'm killing it on Tinder. I just matched 7 minutes ago with a transgendered woman. What do you think? Pre-op. Should I go for it?
For sure.
I'm pretty desperate, dude. I'm thinking about it. Because they'd probably be into me. It's just that I only believe there's two genders. But at least they picked one, right? At least they picked one of them. Fuck, dude. Fuck these non-binary women. You're not allowed to call them that. That's the whole point of being non-binary, is you're not allowed to call them what they are, which is women.
So that's a very, I don't know what kind of bit that was. I don't know why it worked so well. I think just because it was in the moment and it was honest, but I was laughing during part of it because it was I didn't know what I was, like, I happened to say something that I think is a good punchline, but also is pretty offensive, to say that I'm sick of these non-binary women. It's a punchline because you're not supposed to call them women. They're non-binary. That's the whole point. But it turns out a lot of them seem to be born with female, X chromosomes. So to me, my subconscious still interprets them as women. But that doesn't mean that my smarter part of my brain is not willing to be accepting of the non-binary movement. It just takes time because we live in a binary universe, kind of. Like, things are either good or bad, positive, negative, light, dark, life, death, man, female. So to say that you're neither one of those things seems like you're just kind of, I don't want to say that you're rejecting reality. You're just kind of acting as if, I mean, it's fine. It's just hard to force me to just, for my whole subconscious to be like, oh no, don't think of them as a woman. Don't do that. because it's kind of like deep into my monkey subconscious brain. I can't just turn that off. So anyway, and I did match with a pre-op trans woman on Tinder yesterday because she looked hot. Why not? She looked fine. And would I date them besides for the woke points, for the politically correct way it would make me look, to raise my to make me look virtuous? Besides that, would I want to have sex with a pre-op trans woman? And the answer is, I don't know yet, because I haven't been in the same room as them. I haven't been in a situation where where it's a possibility, but I'm not saying no, because why would I? If there's no stigma to it, and if I'm into it, that's the only question, is if I'm into it and if they're into me. Fuck it, dude. Like, it's not out of desperation. Actually, it kind of would be maybe a tiny bit, but so what? Even if it is a little bit out of desperation, it's still a woman by society's lens. In most circles, that's considered, not in like Trump country. In Trump country, I would be called gay. But who gives a fuck? Just because they have a dick, they're still considered a woman by a big part of normatized society's standards. So to be honest, I would try it. I would be into it maybe in some. I don't know, dude. It's weird. It's a weird waters to navigate. Anyway, and someone. So that was that set. I guess we could just go back into a topic that I wanted to talk about on a different episode, but never got into it because of callers and shit. So let's talk about Bernie. We already talked about Bernie Sanders. Let's talk about not any of these right. Actually, fuck it. Let's talk about a right-wing conspiracy. So, if you look at the screen here, there's this article on Wikipedia called "Murder of Seth Rich," and this is a very controversial. It's a guy who got killed in Washington, D.C., and so this murder spawned several right-wing conspiracy theories, which, if you're keeping track, a right-wing conspiracy theory is considered bad. Like, that's why it's right-wing. If it was not bad, if it was just a regular old conspiracy theory, they would just call it that. But it happens to be a right-wing conspiracy theory, which means it's one you should take with a big grain of salt. And I don't know, I'm fine with it being a possibility that this dude was, in fact, murdered by, I mean, he was definitely murdered. That's not even the question. He was definitely murdered. He was shot, like, in the back. 2 gunshot wounds in the back. And the weird part is that he was not robbed or anything. He was just murdered. So that's, and I guess there's some connection to why they think it could have been the DNC or Hillary or whatever. So let's read on to actually. This is a very surface level examination because I don't know. I just know that Trump supporters love to bring up this conspiracy and nobody else gives it credit except for, that's why it's called a right-wing propaganda. That's why it's called right conspiracy theory, because literally no one else cares. So anyway, let's see. Origins, beginnings on social media, WikiLeaks. Julian Assange, founder of WikiLeaks, fueled the speculation in an interview with published on that date, which touched the subject of risk Facebook. Unbidden. What does that mean? Unbidden. So Assange brought up the case of Rich. If he was asked if he was a source. Okay, this is not really that juicy to me. It just sounds like a 4chan conspiracy. So anyway, propagation by right-wing media, and then all these wackos like Kim.com promoted it. Kim.com is someone that I am a fan of, not for this, just because his name's Kim.com. That's why I like him. He goes by Kimball, and there's this big guy, I was about to call him fat, but why? Why do I have to call him fat? You could see the picture right there. Anyway, he started a website, and he's in the internet party. He used to be, I guess he's a politician. Wow, that is dumb. Why does it say, yeah, he's a political activist. Gotcha. Anyway, he started mega uploading, and then he went to jail because you can't just store copyrighted content and distribute it. Anyway, but he was in this thing called the Internet Party, and I'm guessing this is filled with a bunch of neckbeards and incels and people who are considered from the intellectual dark web or some shit. So I guess it was founded by, this party was actually founded by by Kim.com pretty much, and he left his own party after 4 years. So he's he changes his opinion a lot. That'd be cool to have him on, to talk to him. He's probably very mean, I'm guessing. Not the nicest guy. He just seems like he's hard to talk to. You know? Like, let's look up an interview with Kim.com. Why not? I have access to YouTube and Google. Kim.com interview. Hey, I'll let someone else do the talking. This was from 2012, so it doesn't matter. It's not going to be that relevant.
In a 2-week time period. So they are actually talking about 13 billion US damage within a year just for music downloads.
Well, I can't do
that. The entire
that.
US music industry is less than $20 billion. So how can one website be, responsible for this amount of damage? It's completely mind-boggling.
He's just defending himself for having a website that got in trouble. Who cares, dude? That was from 2012, dude. All right, let's look up something a little more relevant, dude. Let's look up Owen Benjamin. I tried to talk about him on a previous episode, but it was too hard. So this guy is, check out his Wikipedia page. Wikipedia, Wikipedia kind of picks sides on how they want to display people. Like it says that he's an alt-right political commentator, which I guess he is. At least that's not the only thing they say about him. They say he's a comedian, an actor, and an alt-right political commentator. I guess that's neutral if it's true. I mean, they're not saying anything. But also they say in the very second sentence, he's been criticized for making intentionally offensive statements and expressing anti-Semitic and anti-LGBT views. So that's pretty much what they want you to get out of him, is that he's a bad guy, that he's been criticized. I mean, that's true. He's been quite criticized. But the part that I get confused about, is he is intentionally offensive? Is that really what he is? Intentionally offensive? Because people have called me intentionally offensive. And I've never done that, so I don't know. I think they're just saying that because they don't know what else to say. Like, I've been called, like, I've done comedy and the host was like, it sounded like you were just trying to offend everybody. It's like, and I was like, no, that's just what I think is funny. I just happen to think that all that stuff is funny. So it's not to offend. It's just that it's natural. Isn't that crazy? If you're naturally offensive, that's not intentional. If it's natural, maybe it is. I don't know. It's just like something to think about. And this guy definitely has said some anti-Semitic stuff, and he used to be kind of mainstream. Now he's completely off the wall nuts. Considered off the freaking wall. Look at this section right here. There's a whole section called Falsehoods and Controversial Opinions. So if you have a whole section in your Wikipedia about how you're a dick, there's two, and then there's another section just for anti-Semitism. It's a header, just anti-Semitism. Isn't that hilarious? And then personal life. here's him. Here's why he's a bad person. Also, he's married and has a son. Hey, like, it's really weird how this is pretty much considered a neutral. It is neutral if it's true. Also, he does observational comedy. It's fun. Anyway, so there's this entire section about how he's a dick. Let's see. So his comedy is influenced by and criticized because of his conservative social and political views. Okay, so far, big deal. He's controversial. He is opposed to political correctness and has been intentionally offensive to mock those who would police his speech. Okay, I guess I could see that being true. I mean, some people do that. Like Steven Crowder, I think, just for the sake of proving that there's no such thing as hate speech, will say stuff that appears to be hate speech or something like that. Or Islamophobia. But does that mean it's intentionally offensive? I don't know. I think it's just an exercise to maybe, yeah, to be offensive, but also to show that it's okay or something. Like you should be allowed to be offensive. Anyway, scheduled shows of his have been canceled. He's been suspended on Twitter. Such behavior includes advocating for the return of slavery to enslave Sean King. That's I mean, it's funny. I don't think it's a good. I mean, I'm sure he was. I mean, I'm not going to defend him. That's a really crazy thing to say. It's also kind of funny. Benjamin has used crowdfunded money to rent the venues for his shows, so he's still doing shows because you can't stop him. He has a fan base who's actually willing to pay money to see him. Hey, say what you want about him. That's kind of cool that he's still doing comedy despite being one of the most controversial comedians in the country. Benjamin believes that the transgender rights movement is part of a eugenics program funded by Bill Gates to lower the world population. Holy crap, that's funny. On the last episode, someone did call in to talk about how Bill Gates is kind of a douche. Those weren't his exact words. I'm just paraphrasing. He said that Bill Gates has a good PR team, and that's how Bill Gates is able to look like this virtuous guy, when in reality, he's only getting richer. He's not actually doing anything that virtuous. And I've never heard that the transgender rights movement is a part of a eugenics program to lower the world population. I don't know. It seems kind of weird. I don't really get how that would work. But I guess he's referring maybe to, I'm not going to even guess what he means by that. Benjamin has accused Jesse Thorne of being a child molester for having a transgender child. Okay, that's pretty funny because of how nuts that is to say. Yeah, that's even for me. That's kind of insane for me to laugh at. I mean, it's funny. Benjamin has also used many anti-LGBT slurs. What's an anti-LGBT slur besides? I don't know. Like, I'm sure there's a bunch of them, but Jesus Christ, that's his. So where's the false? So it just says falsehoods. Doesn't really say where the falsehoods are. It just says what he believes. But where's the falsehoods? It seems like just some angry neckbeard just wanted to use the word falsehoods because it's biased. And he does not believe in the moon landing. It just ends there. He does not believe. Also, by the way, he thinks the moon landing was a hoax, dude. And what if he's right? Like, where's the evidence that it's a falsehood? But also, I'm sure there is plenty of evidence. Like, if you go to this page, very long article about moon landing conspiracy theories. Hey, if the article's this long, that's evidence that there's evidence to suggest that there was, in fact, a conspiracy of some kind. Like, look at all this content. I'm assuming, though, that this article also is somewhat disproving of all the conspiracies. I don't know. I don't want to read all of this or any of this because I'm not even that big into the moon landing conspiracy. I'm not a conspiracy theorist in that sense with this conspiracy theory. I just think it's funny how they just say that he's in addition to all the horrible things above the, and also okay, so anti-Semitism. Benjamin supports these anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and let's see if we could find a video. Pretty sure there's a video that we could pull up to prove that, but who cares? Let's just go to a video of him. Let's go to his channel on YouTube, and I'll just react to Owen Benjamin, because I am tired of talking, dude. Owen Benjamin, he's still on YouTube. That's freedom of speech for you, and he's got a lot of subs. Like he goes live like every day. Oh no, he took a break. He took a break for 4 months, and then a day ago he started going on it again. Oh, he's selling tickets. Good for you, brother. Nah, I mean I don't. Who told it better? Okay, let's see this. Let's see whatever this.
And what is the girl's response to "Do you like that?" It's like deeper. You're like, sweet, like that, like that. Is that deeper? Deeper. Like if I make this face. Like ladies, you think we're holding out? Like stop and think what deeper means. Deeper means you think there's a chance we have more. Deeper means you think we're holding out a little bit of penis just for ourselves. It's like deeper. It's like, no, baby, that last inch is just for me. Ladies, how would you feel if we said tighter? Look at everyone's reaction. It's mind-blowingly offensive. It's fucking mind-blowingly offensive. Tighter, baby. Tighter. No, try a different angle. I deserve more.
Crushing.
No, that would not end well.
He's crushing.
Deeper. Deeper. It don't go deeper. That's the end of the dick. There's no more dick after the end of the dick.
Same joke.
Okay? That's it. All right? Once you reach the end of the dick, it's just body. That's where the body starts. I could tuck some stomach in there if you want. I don't know. I don't know what biology class you took where they told you say deeper. We go, oh, deeper, let me crank out some more dick. Always keep an extra foot of dick on me and all. Well, you thought this is a beer belly? It's a penis pouch, man. That's where I keep my dick. I gotta store it somewhere, you know. All this fucking extra dick I got flopping around. I need a storage unit.
I like Owen's.
That's rude to say, isn't it? We would never say that to you.
Holy shit, it's the same joke.
Tighter!
Holy shit, it's the same joke.
Squeeze it! Vacuum seal it!
I gotta be honest there. I think Owen, that is the same joke. That's crazy. And like the same punchlines and everything, almost the same tags. And I think Owen Benjamin actually did it better. But also that was the first time I heard it, so he just had the advantage of going first. And also it's kind of a hack. Anyone could have thought of that premise too. If you have sex with somebody who says to go deeper, that would be your first response to say, I can't go deeper. My whole dick's in. So it's a pretty common. It's just called parallel thinking, I think. So nobody, I don't think, stole from each other here. It's just an example of how Owen Benjamin, as offensive as he is, he's still pretty funny. Like you could be considered problematic and still be also hilarious and make. So that's why I don't really put too much stock into people's opinions. I care if they're funny, fun to be around, friendly, and not gonna be violent to me. I don't like people who try to like think that it's okay to be violent just because you have a different opinion. That's like extreme bigotry, and a lot of people do support that against Trump supporters for some reason. I don't know. That's why it's easy to look good in arguments, as long as you're not, like, because I don't actually think, I'm not pro-violent. So if you're not pro-violence, you kind of look more virtuous than just by default, compared to people who actually think they're virtuous but are pro-violence. I don't think I'm virtuous. I just think I just think violence is a bad thing generally against someone who's not violent to you. Like self-defense, that's different. Anyway, I think we get it. Oh, we got another. Let's see the one with Chappelle.
This is who I feel bad for, because you got the LBGT, right? Yeah. There's more every day, I know. But I'll tell you what happened.
More every day.
It all started with the L's. And the L's are great. No one has a problem with the L's. Like, so the L's were like, L's, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, L's, great. You guys are really cool, you're great dinner guests. You know? Because they love knick-knacking. Like, they always have interesting magnets. You know, it's like a Sylvia Plath poem on a mug. Like, they're good people. And then the G's came in. And the G's are cool, but they're male. So they're a little more aggressive, but they're a blast, you know. They're like, hey, we're the G's. And the L's are like, hey, G's, what are you guys up to? They're like, you know, we're facing some discrimination. Why don't we team up? You guys have the Subarus, we got, like, raves. And we're pretty ripped, and we're fun, we're hilarious. So let's do that. You know, we're a little unpredictable. We might have a coke problem, but let's all team up. And the L's are like, great. And at this point, everything's going great. And then the B's came in. The B's threw people for a loop, because you never really know if you can go camping with them, but they're cool. Like, you know, they're like, we'll bang anybody. They're like, anybody? They're like, anybody. And
that's a good form. He knows how to write jokes, you know.
At that point, everything's going good, and then everything changed with the T's. The T's came in, right? And they're like, hey, we're the T's. And they're like, hey, what's going on with you guys? They're like, yeah, we're being discriminated against. And everyone's like, oh, we'll protect you, T's. And they're like, yeah, so let's all chop our cocks off. And everyone's like, hey, whoa, man. What's going on with you? They're like, no, I'm going to chop off my cock, and now gender doesn't even exist. Nothing matters. A 4-year-old can be a T. Everyone's like, dude, can we kick out the T? They're like, no, he's already brought the Q's, the A's, and the I's. And they're like, we're gonna burn this bitch down. And you go all the way back to the L's, and they're like, we should have just knitted sweaters. Oh, fuck, that might be a fucking great joke, guys. I started writing that yesterday.
You hear all those letters together all the time. LBGT, LBGT. And you think it's just one big movement. It's not. All those letters are their own movement. They just travel in the same car together. So the G's are just driving the car. Of course, next to the G's in the passenger seat is the L's. Everybody likes the L's, except for the G's. I don't know what that's about. I just know the G's don't like them that much. The only thing
that's
that
similar, I
breaks the tension
guess.
between the L's and the G's are the B's in the back seat. If it's one thing that the L's and the G's agree on, is that the B's are fucking gross. They seem greedy to the L's and the G's, you know what I mean? They're just sitting in the back seat like, yeah, man, I'll fuck anybody in this car. What's going on, man?
Okay. I already think Owens is better, but also he had the advantage of going first. But it is the same joke, it seems. Well, it's a similar joke.
And sitting next to the B's, all the way in the back seat by themselves, looking out the window. That's the T's.
Wow, yeah, he's really separating them
Everybody in the car
the same way.
respects the T's, but everyone also resents the T's. It's not the T's' fault, but everyone in the car just feels like the T's are making the trip take longer.
Yeah, Dave's was much more like finessed, like a lot less brash or whatever, harsh, but it was more like philosophical. It was more thought out, but similar jokes. And I don't know, I don't really think they're similar enough for someone to get mad at the joke theft part of it. And Owen Benjamin is known for doing this type of comedy, so he had home field advantage, kind of, but so does Dave. Dave also is known for that type of shit. So that's crazy, but one is completely banned from society. Not banned, but you know what I mean. Dave Chappelle did get flack for this special. I have not seen it. I've only seen what we just saw, because I'm already sold on Dave Chappelle. I don't need to know that he's still funny. I get it. He's funny. So Owen Benjamin is also very funny, as much as people hate to admit. I don't know. I would hate to admit that if I was not a comedian myself who enjoyed good quality comedians or comedy, whatever. I don't agree with everything he does. I just think he's funny. Same with Gavin McInnes. This dude's hilarious, but he also started the Proud Boys, so a lot of people think he's like the worst Nazi. People think he's worse than Trump. They think he's like a demon. But hey, let's just watch, I don't know, any of his videos. Let's just watch his latest video. I will guarantee you there's something funny in there. Here we go. Oh, I already watched this. Joe Rogan dumped me, and he goes really into depth about how people misperceive him. But I don't know if that's the funniest video, but who cares?
And I'm clearly never getting on his show again because the SJWBs are swarming around me and he doesn't want to get stung. So they're actually pretty effective.
Chapters
they make up these lies
worldwide. You see it. It's like, here's the Proud Boys Australia. Here's the Proud Boys England. Proud Boys fucking Japan. Like, it's everywhere, and it never was supposed to get to that point. And regardless of how these people act, it now reflects on Gavin. Even though he wanted to hang out in a bar with a few people, do his public speaking without being hassled, and that's it. And I see the way the media manipulates things. I've been party to it myself. And I've seen Gavin presented in photos where you look and go, holy fuck, it's Hitler. Like they get him. There's one picture of Gavin that I was petrified by. He's got his arms folded. He's got a scowl on his...
All right, we're reacting to a reaction video. Let's just go for something a little more straight up for what Gavin McInnes is a good example of how he is funny. I'm just saying he's a funny guy. Like, here he is talking to another super controversial
Tommy,
dude.
Tomorrow's the big decision.
Yeah, tomorrow's the sentencing, mate. This time tomorrow, I'll be in jail, bruv.
But can't you...
All right, this is... Who cares, dude? I should probably plan out better videos instead of just going, okay, let's go to the Bernie Sanders on Joe Rogan podcast. I've never seen this before. So screw it. Let's just go right into this.
The Joe Rogan experience.
How he gets criticized.
What are the misconceptions of you? Because here's the if you go to the knee-jerk conservative reaction, you talk to people who are not interested in anyone that wants to be a democratic socialist. They hear the name Bernie Sanders. The negative implications are that you are somehow or another going to take their money. Right? Is that annoying to you?
Yes, it is. Of course it is. And also that I'm Mr. Maduro, I'm a dictator, I love dictatorships and all that stuff. And the truth is, Joe, that if you look at the issues that I can't...
Holy shit, this is boring. Let's put it on double time. Because this guy is talking like he's he's an old man. I mean, of course he talks like that. Let's just turn it up to 1.75s.
Campaign on them, but I believe on they are really not terribly radical. They exist in many countries all over the world. For example, we can start on healthcare if you like. Is the idea that healthcare is a human right, not a privilege, a radical idea?
I don't think it is.
It's not. And the truth is,
I don't think it is. That's not.
The only major country on earth, many people don't know this, we're the only major country on earth not to guarantee healthcare to all people as a human right, and yet we end up spending almost twice as much per capita on
Wait, we're the only... Okay, that might be true.
Healthcare. The function, and you can argue with me if you want, but the function of the current healthcare system is not to provide quality care at all. It is to make tens of billions of dollars in profit for the drug companies and the insurance.
I'm not just playing it on double time to make him look foolish. It's just that I'm really bored of the way.
That's the function. If you go to Canada,
It's just boring to hear someone just say how good it would be if things were different. Like, yeah, I agree. It would be awesome if healthcare was a human right. Great. Let's all just keep fantasizing about that, and maybe you'll get elected.
and I live 50 miles away from the Canadian border. You have major heart surgery. You're in the hospital for a month. Do you know what the bill is when you get out?
Zero.
You got it. You go to any doctor.
You got her. Zero. You got her. It's that simple, dude. Hey, if Canada could do it, then why can't the United States?
You don't have to take out your wallet. And yet they guarantee health care to all of their people, and they spend 1/2 of what we spend. That's kind of what I want to.
They spend 1/2 of what we spend on health care. So we do spend money on health care, just not way more. I didn't even know that.
And I don't think that that's terribly radical. We have a program now, which everybody knows. It's called Medicare. It was started by Lyndon Johnson back in 1965. It is a popular program. All that I want to do over a 4-year period is to expand it. Today, eligibility age is 65. I want to take it down to 55, 45, 35, everybody over a 4-year period. That's about it. And I want to expand benefits to include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses.
That's reasonable.
As well. That's about it. Not too radical.
That doesn't sound radical at all.
That's about it. Not too radical. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we already got Medicare, so why not just lower the age, make it a little more easy, inclusive, make it a little more. Like we already have Medicare. Is that socialized medicine? Is Medicare considered socialized medicine? Medicare, socialized medicine. I'm sure that will come up. So socialized medicine is a term used in the U.S. to describe and discuss systems of universal health care. Medicare, medical and hospital care for by means of government. So I guess technically Medicare is considered by some people to be socialized medicine. I mean, I don't know. You really have to break down the definition of like universal health care. It's not universal. It's only for 65-year-olds. But universal health care is health care that provides health care and financial protection to all residents of the. And he didn't even say he was for that. He just said he wanted to drop the age down of Medicare. That's not that radical. So that guy knows what he's talking about. At least on the sense that he's not radical.
You say that Canada spends less. Obviously, they have less people. You mean less per capita?
Yes, half per capita.
Half
exactly, per capita. And the quality of
per
care
capita
is as good or better. Do they have problems? Yeah,
per
they have
capita.
problems. Everybody has problems. But overall, the healthcare experts will tell you the quality of care there is as good or better than it is in our country.
So what's the hurdle?
Okay, I'll tell you exactly what the hurdle is. The hurdle
I'll tell you exactly.
Is exactly the same thing as in every other aspect of our lives. It's the power of money. All right, listen to this. Over the last 20 years, the drug companies alone have spent $4.5 billion in 20 years on lobbying and campaign contributions.
Oh,
That's
shit.
what we're up against.
Oh,
the knowledge,
shit.
and I mark my words, within a short period of time, you will see TV ads in California, all over this country, demonizing Bernie Sanders. He wants to do this terrible thing to you. He wants to do that. They have unbelievable amounts of money, and politicians are frightened of that power. I'll give you one example. Back in 2016, I got involved here in a little way with an effort on the part of the nurses to control the cost of prescription drugs in California. You may recall that effort.
I do.
It was a ballot item in one state here in California. Do you know how much the drug companies alone?
All right, we're going to interrupt Bernie to take another phone call here. Hello, thanks for calling. What's your name?
Hey, it's Nick.
Hey, you made it into the show, dude.
I made it. Well, how's it going so far?
It was all right. We had one caller who tried to disagree with me, but it turns out we get along very well. I turned him around. Wow. He's now a Republican. Just kidding.
You flipped him.
Yeah.
Just flipping seats here. That's it's a feminism episode.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted it to be. I did talk a lot about that, a little bit about how
it came up a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of opened on that by saying that I kind of like feminists because they're passionate, and I like passion, And if I like the complexity of being an ally to them, but also still maintaining my masculine qualities.
Yeah, keeping your masculine edge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of interesting theory surrounding that actually. But I was just surprised because we're at Montrose Saloon. Didn't some lady make mention of that's why you left the stage, just because she had some bit about feminism or something like that? You were just going to take a shot?
Yeah, and that's somebody that I'm trying to get on the podcast, actually. She said she would call in when she's free to do so, and I would like to talk to her about that, but before she's on the show, probably going to keep it very anonymous and not go too into detail about that, because I don't even really remember. To be honest, I was very drunk that night.
Yes, you bumped mics.
Yeah. Like, I remember that. That was fun. But I don't...
It was a good bike bump.
Yeah. It was like the most fun I've had in public in a long time, but also with fun comes negative consequences sometimes.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I was definitely intrigued. Well, and I told you I was coming from book club to it's actually PCBC, Pinko Kami Book Club.
Oh, cool.
Yes,
Good
took a little break. Yeah. For my two book club homies,
So you were talking about what were you talking about politics, you said?
Well, so it's we do like readings from different at the moment. Well, sometimes anarchists, most oftentimes like socialist philosophers. So we were actually just reading an essay from Friedrich Engels, and he's like the main collaborator with Karl Marx. I almost called him Carlos Marx just now, which is yeah, Carlos Marx. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's good. It's a good time. It's a good time.
So
what else have you guys talked about on the show so far?
I actually was just talking about Bernie Sanders, about how he was talking about how he wants to lower the age of Medicare. He wasn't even arguing for universal health care. He was just saying, well, over the 4 years, I want to lower the age of Medicare down to like 45 instead of 65. Ooh. So that's not that crazy even to me. Like, sounds pretty reasonable and not radical, to be honest, to do that.
By the whole rest of the world standards, Bernie Sanders is like a pretty, I wouldn't call him like a centrist, but like as far as like people who lean politically left, yeah, he's like fairly conservative in those circles.
Ah, wow. Because I'm to the right of him, so to me, he does look kind of.
Yeah, you're pure Nazi clean through. Like that's to them, not the Tim Weisselbaum we all know and love.
But actually, he did kind of convince me that maybe he's not. Well, yeah, like you were saying, he's considered like a centrist kind of.
Just by like far left standards,
Oh yeah, of
like,
course. Because you were saying you were kind of studying anarchism. Are you?
Yeah, that's my own personal favorite brand of leftism. Yeah, like anarcho-socialist, you'd call it. So not like modern American libertarians. That's more like Tea Party patriots. It's like Noam Chomsky's like a popular anarcho-socialist thinker, I guess you could say. Yeah. So that'd be kind of like my personal political philosophy, but also like try to be realistic here. So I also pull hard for Bernie Sanders as well,
Well, you got to pick somebody.
Yes, exactly. As long as I'm here in America, I may as well vote for someone.
So I respect that you're actually willing to get behind a candidate. Some people are just so in their own branch of, like, some social anarchists would probably just not even vote.
100%. A lot of them would not. Yeah. No, I've talked to plenty. Yeah. Yeah. It's not. Yeah. Well, and I can kind of respect it in some ways, because to a lot of them, that's like, not the most vital political work that needs to be done. Sometimes like they're more about trying to provide like immediate, on the ground aid to people. Sometimes they're about, politically organizing within their community. So it could be a lot of different things. It takes a lot of different forms.
I mean, it says in the first thing that they're it's a non-state form of socialism, meaning basically they don't want anyone at the top. It seems like they just want.
Yeah, you might call it like, yeah, because the main thing that they would be opposed to would be like hierarchical organization.
I see.
So that'd be like, yeah.
So it's kind of.
It's not.
So they're like kind of an extreme form of libertarianism, kind of.
It is like, yeah, it's like it was. It used to be, and for most of the world, it still is. If you talk about libertarianism, that's actually what used to be the more common conception of it from a philosophical standpoint. Like the current form that you're familiar with in America, where it's just like, I just don't want to get taxed, and or like anarcho-capitalism, some people call it. That's more contemporary. Older forms of it, like they go back to like I don't know, like the Marx, the Karl Marx of anarcho-socialism would be a guy called Bakunin, probably. He was like Marx's contemporary, and where Marx had all this stuff in his writing where he pointed out a lot of the flaws that we actually see in capitalism, happening today. Bakunin, did point out some of the things that we associate nowadays with state socialism that went wrong, like where governments become more oppressive or totalitarian. You know what I mean? He kind of projected that could be an issue with state socialism. So it's a lot of fascinating theory.
So it's decentralized, and everyone is basically on equal terms with everyone. Like, so the socialism part, you still think that's where I'm confused. So if it's so decentralized, how do we implement all these socialistic programs? Like, how do we make it fair if it's also decentralized?
I think that the goal would be for federations to kind of take the place of that those centralized power structures.
Oh, I see.
So, like, where you have like collaboration and cooperation between the groups of people that are actually producing the means to continued existence. You know what I mean? And it's, if you wanted like some historical examples of societies, a really fascinating one, during the Spanish Civil War, Catalonia, briefly went anarcho-syndicalist. So there was like the workers basically controlled their workplace, and I believe they got rid of currency, or at least currency as we're familiar with it, where basically you were just given some sort of voucher that validated how many hours work you did that day, and then you just went and exchanged that, and then basically all work was equalized. But like people voluntarily organized themselves into that society during the Spanish Civil War. It's pretty fascinating. George Orwell wrote about it. It's like the first chapter of his book, Homage to Catalonia. He really quickly kind of describes seeing that, and basically seeing that firsthand is the reason that he enlisted in the Spanish Civil War.
Shit. Well, this is beyond me. But I do feel that some of this appeals to my my way of thinking, because I don't like authoritarianism. I do like decentralization in general, just the concept of power not being centralized. And also,
I think a lot of people could get behind that.
Yeah, even the socialism part, in theory, it sounds fine. If you could achieve it, it's just like, how the fuck do you decentralize?
Oh well, it's a very idealistic philosophy.
Well, that's why there's no
which is why I compromise. Which is why I'll vote for Bernie. You know what I mean?
So Bernie, you think, is the closest thing to that appeal to what appeals to these social anarchism?
Yeah, and and like I said, I know a lot of anarchists who don't believe in electoral politics or don't put a strong faith in it and still donate to his campaign, just because it's really not about like someone being ideologically perfect. It's, you look at the pragmatic circumstances for working people right now, and you ask yourself, well, in this system, which is pretty corrupt and shitty to working people, who's going to back us the hardest? And that's just the candidate. The dude's got a good record.
Do you differentiate Andrew Yang from? Do you think he's similar?
Dude, I have no idea who the flying fuck Andrew
Gotcha.
Yang. I mean, like, I've heard of him, and like I see him on my Facebook constantly, but I'm like, who the fuck is Andrew Yang?
Yep, I was talking.
Well, it's
with
like
him.
that other lady. She just dropped out of the Democratic primaries. I
really?
was like, who is? What was her name?
I'm trying to remember.
I literally just saw her face and her name, and I'm like, who is this? Yeah, it's just it's like you ever heard that term Donnybrook?
No.
It's a fight where the whole bar gets involved. That's what this primary is like.
Were you talking about Tulsi Gabbard?
No.
Oh,
It's a different name. That's
okay.
It's something else. I want to say something with a K. She was like she looked to be like a lady in her like mid to late 40s with blonde hair. Yeah, I have no idea but she just dropped out, and it's just kind of strange. I'm like, wow, we're losing people, or people are dropping out of it that I didn't even know existed. Yeah. Hey, can I ask you though? So like when you have like reservations about socialism, where's that stem from?
So basically, I was saying that I am for decentralization. The thing that scares me about it is the centralization of power and the bureaucracy that will stifle the free market that makes these things, that makes basically existence, or I guess that's I'll just end it there by saying I'm against centralized power and bureaucracy.
And as you know from what I've divulged about my political views, I can I see where you're coming from on that one.
Yeah.
For sure. But what a lot of anarcho-socialists would point out is that we still have like these very hard to breach power structures that exist within capitalism. And I mean, like, granted, like I'm kind of like you, where it's like if it's fully centralized, if you send the power through a narrow channel, then it becomes easy to divert it in the direction, a smaller group of people would want to see it diverted.
And I guess I would say, like, if I were to be an anarcho anything, I'd probably be an anarcho-capitalist, because I do think the free market is better than, I just think there's nothing better. Like, what do we even, if you're setting limits on the market, I think that leads to negative consequences more than it outweighs the negatives of, like, I think there's many negatives of capitalism. I just think the free market needs to exist for freedom.
You're more for like of the opinion that competition kind of produces results and
competition
and that,
letting the people letting the market demand decide prices and not just some arbitrary limits that the government's putting on. And also, I think the freer the market, the freer the people. I kind of believe that.
Well, so now this is like a pretty common ground, because like I mentioned ANCAPs versus and socialists. So like a big sticking point for most social, like anarcho-socialists or socialists in general, when ANCAPs bring that up, is that if capitalism does not in and of itself necessarily denote a hierarchy, or at least I don't personally believe that it fully, like, capitalism is equivalent to hierarchy, but I do think that it is the most fertile ground for hierarchy to grow from. You know what I mean?
Wealth is power. So yeah, if you accumulate wealth and corporations become greedy, that's where that's where it becomes power. The same thing as a hierarchy. I totally agree with that.
Well, and then it kind of gets even worse too, because like I don't think right now what we have is a free market, because if this were a truly free market, then during the housing crash some of those big banks would have folded. But instead what they did was they leaned on the steady supply of tax dollars to keep them afloat. And you see that too. I mean, like, there's oil subsidies, there's subsidies for automakers in the U.S. and all that stuff.
That is scary to think that even though, like, because even if we did let the banks just kind of fall and get bankrupt or whatever, that would lead to all these other negative consequences. So it seems like
it would mostly be bad for working people. Yeah,
we rely on some big thing to base all our, like, even just the military budget. and the military itself is how we need that. Like without any military, we'd be invaded probably at some point. I mean, like how would
it's hard to say.
How would anarchy? How would that anarchy socialism deal with the military?
Well, so okay, so I'll go back to that book again, Homage to Catalonia, because basic like quick breakdown of Spanish Civil War is there was like an attempted military coup on the government, and like the Civil War was essentially being fought. On one side, you had military fascists, and then on the other side, you had the people, pro-government at the time, and you had let me try to remember what they were called, like workers' councils, a lot of like voluntary militias basically assembled ad hoc, spur of the moment, to fight the fascists. And Orwell talked about like specifically his experiences working in like anarchist contingents. Like, you would think, because you think about like military might, and you do associate that with like a rigid hierarchy. You got to have a general, you got to have soldier and all this and that. And he's like, it did function. He kind of like, I'm paraphrasing big time here, but he kind of described it as like kind of being similar but different, where it's like, yeah, you did answer to, like a commander, but your commander like addressed you knowing that at any given moment, if you don't feel like fighting anymore, you'll just stop, and there was like a sort of, an understanding that a leader in the group is still a member of the group. It's just part of his duties to the group to help direction the efforts of the group. So sometimes you have things functioning like very similarly, but just with like a couple of core differences, you know what I mean? Like, and for the necessity of the moment, they can, but of course, like now I say this, and the fascists did wind up winning that Civil War, but it wasn't necessarily because of like breakdowns in how and how the pro-government military was constructed. It had a lot to do with at that time, this was just before World War II, and so you had fascist Germany funneling money in to help the fascists win the war, and you also had Russia at the time, which though communist, was not necessarily friendly to anarchists, so that actually split some of the fighting forces on the anti-fascist side of the Spanish Civil War. So it's like, it's a whole lot of fascinating reasons why it broke down, but Orwell actually spoke pretty highly of the people's ability to spontaneously organize to defend themselves.
So it'd be spontaneous. I guess I just don't know how, when I picture the military, I feel like it's the reason the fascists have an edge is because they're so systematically in step with each other, and they're even there's a hierarchy, of course, but even I just think there needs to be like a system of some kind, and that takes.
Well, they still form systems on the other side of that, and then like you also have to consider that like part of the sometimes they would get fascist soldiers to turn away from their duties literally by just shouting across to them like, is this really who you want to fight for? You know what I mean? Like, kind of just like break them down mentally by pointing out like, dude, like, bro, you're the bad guys. Do you really want to die fighting for the bad guys?
I got you. I just think it's fascinating to think how we could have an organized military, but no government or any person really in charge, like at the top, because like we need strategies, we need defense in the air, the water, and the land. We need it to be systematic.
Air, the water, the sea, and well, well, there's also a lot of interesting theory, concerning like, well, what is the actual real need of an American military? Because, you think about attacks on American soil that have happened, like 9/11 being like most people's go-to. I mean, 9/11 is like the direct result of America having used Afghanistan to fight a proxy war with Russia, like all the way from the Cold War or the end of the Cold War to September 11th, 2001, or September 10th, 2001.
Is that why they hated us so much? Just because of that? It wasn't just because of Western
exactly.
values?
Well, you have American interventionism, where we're where we use our military might to insert ourselves And I mean, and like that kind of like, we kind of, it's hard to fully suss out the necessity of the military when so much of like our military, well, of what our military does is like exist in response to things that developed because of things that our military did. It just kind of becomes like a sort of circular reasoning at a certain point.
And that's the same argument or reasoning that people use to justify letting in a bunch of migrants as refugees because of American interventionism. Like, oh, we created the problems. But you don't think there's any truth to the side that argues that maybe those radical Islamic groups just happen to hate Western values?
I'm certain that there would have to be some groups that do like harbor, you know,
but that's
like,
not what led
an
the
animosity.
attack.
What's that?
You don't think that's what caused the terrorism at all? Just wanting to eradicate?
Well, so I mean, like radicalized people happen, but they don't happen in a vacuum. You know what I mean? Like I don't. So what I question is like, without our intervention, how many of those radicals would exist? And I mean, and some of this like isn't always like formed. Some of these opinions I don't always necessarily form just out of like readings, but like, you know, things that I've heard about from friends who were in the military. You know what I mean? Like things that
I think that's a good point, that radicals don't exist in a vacuum. Can I ask you, so what do you think about like the Proud Boys?
Again, another example of like, radicals. I still same response. Yeah, radicals don't exist in a vacuum.
Yeah.
I think those guys largely exist in response to certain elements of what we teach young men. It like, this is what it means to be a man. And when they don't live up to those elements of manhood, then they feel like a sense of shame that they turn inwards, and it becomes like anger and hatred, you know?
Right, there's that, and also they just say they're just Western chauvinists. They like Western values and feel that they're under attack.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, and especially like, you know, there's that old quote like, you know, when you come from a privileged group, anytime things start to reach a state of equality, it's going to feel like you're having something taken away from you.
Right.
You know, and I get why that anger. Actually, you know, so one of the anarchist groups that I do like regularly organize with, it's kind of funny because it's right in their, I guess you'd call it like their intake literature. Like, you know, this is like our general, you know, guidelines. This is like the principles that we believe in. And one of the first things in there is about how like they don't believe that there are people who are, you know, beyond redemption, people who can't be, you know, talked with, and you know, who so like when it comes to,
that's how I feel about feminists. I don't write anyone off if they have and I want them to say the same about me. Anyone who doesn't who thinks I'm radicalized or irrational, don't banish me from society. Give me a chance.
Well, and there's definitely like in your work, and I was actually asking someone else about this. I should have but you know, I feel like every time you and I see each other at open mics and stuff, we're kind of like in the middle of doing some shit, especially last time you had to play the guitar. But I think it was on because I gave your Making Dudes Laugh album a listen, and I think you had a joke on there that was like, because you know, what's the problem with fascism? As long as you survive. Was that?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
That I thought that was pretty fucking hilarious, and it seemed like it was like a very tongue-in-cheek way of like poking fun at like some of the things that those guys seem to be missing, basically. And I thought that was like a really, really good on the line kind of tongue-in-cheek joke.
Yeah.
So so it's like, I get kind of where you're coming from. No one's fully beyond. Well, and that's the thing with these, you know, Proud Boys, or a lot of the or like incels. That was the thing. That was a group of people I was watching a documentary on not too long ago, where it's just like, I mean, half of their problem actually is that they're clinging to these like very traditional values, and it's like, bro, if you let those go, you'd probably feel a lot better.
Oh, you think that's what's going on in a lot of incels' heads, is that they're clinging to these norms, these old school societal norms? And that's
exactly.
What's
like they
them?
feel bad about the fact that they're not getting laid, either in the first place or regularly,
right?
And that turns to them thinking like they're owed it, or it's like it's all these things that like, if they just kind of drifted. I mean, that's kind of the funny thing too. Like they talk about like a lot of times, like that term SJW or whatever is thrown around. And it's kind of funny because I think like a lot of the things that those guys are most deeply insecure about, if they were to talk to one of those quote unquote SJWs about it, probably end up feeling a lot better.
Oh, okay. I mean, I think SJWs are also in kind of the same boat where they feel like they're marginalized, and that's why, or they're just speaking up for other people who are marginalized.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of get a little tricky, because like there can be a point in the rhetoric where people can sound dismissive.
I would talk to any SJW if they would talk to me. I feel like the term SJW is such a bad, it's considered a radical thing to be one, but doesn't mean they're not.
Well, it's also kind of a weird catch-all term too, because it does kind of apply to a lot of groups. Because like it could also just be like it could mean literally everyone from like a legitimate on-the-ground activist to someone who just writes a lot of rants on Tumblr.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, there was shit. I can't remember what it was called. I'll have to look it up again. But there was a really interesting YouTube series that was all about like trying to like orchestrate conversations between like radically opposed viewpoints. Yeah, and I got to give that another look. But like, yeah, because it's incredibly hard to do.
It's really hard to just get them on the show. Yeah, like.
Gotta get him on the show. I'll try. Maybe I'll try and find someone
That'd
for
be
you.
Great.
If you'd be interested in me finding you. The group that I do, the two groups that I do political organizing work with is DSA, that's Democratic Socialists of America, and they are what's called a Big Tent organization. So that means that they have everyone in their organization from like far left anarchists to like just left of center Democrats. So like pretty wide range of opinions represented there. But then the anarchist group that I work with is GDC, and they're like a part of the IWW, which is like an old school labor organization, and they've got like way fewer people, but that's also because like that group is specifically anarchists, not like a wide range of leftists, just like anarcho-leftists.
Well, either way, I'd like to just get anyone on who opposes me on literally any subject, because that's how you kind of really find out if you are problematic, I think, is actually by listening to what both sides say, which I do. I know what leftists say. I know what Republicans say. That's what made me change my mind, is not feeling like, oh, you're a Republican, therefore nothing you say is valuable.
No. I just say, so I work with a shit ton of Republicans, and so like I don't know. I get what you're saying, where it's like you do want to keep an open mind.
Some of them are smart. It just depends on what issue you're talking about, because it's complicated. There's so many arguments against all these socialized like things that I was saying. It's like, well, it's just not feasible. I don't have the money. There's too many. If we open the borders, then a bunch of people will come. The population will rise to 1 billion or something. That's my opinion. You can't just open the borders.
Well, that's a big tricky thing too, because like it's so hard to know what the potential for our species is, because like as long as our social organization is built along capitalist lines, I mean, you look at humans, and pretty much everything we've ever accomplished has been an effort, like a socially orchestrated effort. Even if you were smart enough to sit there and figure out all the math involved to build a rocket ship on your own, you wouldn't be able to build that rocket ship unless someone's out there growing the food that you're eating, running the mill that creates your electricity, like builds the house you live in, all the shit that you build your rocket out of was dug up in a different country and, and mailed here essentially. So it's like that's actually Russian anarchist Peter Kropotkin put out that idea in this book called The Conquest of Bread, where he and this dude is really interesting because he was a member of the Russian oligarchy who literally formed these principles and then got rid of his title. He abdicated his title to live by his principles, and he was also this doesn't necessarily add to his credibility as a philosopher, but he was also a mathematics genius. And I forgot to say. Oh yeah, but he basically made the case that basically everything that, even things that people who are geniuses and have immense vision, everything that they do, they still owe in some degree to the society that sheltered them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting.
Is anarchy? Can I just ask you, what is anarcho-socialism for border protection?
No, they would.
Right, because they don't have
from that point of view, borders are just this kind of made-up construct that are.
Oh, really?
Well, it's it's pretty much a made-up construct that's there to enforce property rights, and what the term property is tricky because they don't mean property as in if you own your car. They mean property that gives you the ability to exploit another person's labor. So property I own all this land, I allow you to farm it, but only because I'll get to take the lion's share of the proceeds of your farming, and you'll get an hourly wage for it.
What if your whatever you want to call it, your nation is bordering a totalitarian nation or a fascist nation that will totally... Don't you kind of need some protection from your neighboring people that might not have the same ideologies?
That is, and that's actually been a thing that has occurred. So I don't know if they're explicitly speaking anarchist, but they have a lot of anarcho-communist influence, or I'm going to butcher this name, the EZLN, or the Radical Autonomous Zapatista Territories. Basically, it's an autonomous territory within Mexico. And so they are quite literally bordered all the way around by a hostile government that does not want them to exist anymore and wants them to reincorporate back into Mexico. So they have had to employ all sorts of different strategies in order to maintain their autonomy.
They got to do something. Yeah, they have to.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and they initially seized their autonomy at a very specific point in history. I want to say it was in 1994, and they basically staged their rebellion to coincide with Mexico hosting NATO. So basically, because it was all these indigenous people, all these people from indigenous groups in Mexico, most of whom were basically the only work they could get was to work plantations and farms, and they make no money, and their labor is exploited constantly. The land that those farms exists on is land that was basically taken from them historically, and so you basically had this massive group of people who had nothing, who just seized the territory and established their own autonomous government. And the only reason that they were really fully able to do it was because they waited till Mexico was hosting NATO, because the Mexican army, while playing host to NATO, cannot be seen to be just mowing down, peasants in the street, Yeah. So if they hadn't if they hadn't chosen that specific time, it might have been a lot worse.
Well, I'm definitely impressed by your breadth of knowledge. It definitely sounds like you go to a book club and we're just at one.
Yeah, I'm full-blown nerd.
And you're the first person who identifies as anarcho-socialist, so that was a good call to have. I've had socialists on. I've had other leftists on. Would you call yourself a leftist?
Yeah. Leftist is like, good umbrella term that catches most of it. And that's where like,
because I don't mean it pejoratively. A lot of people say it pejoratively. It's just an accurate thing. It's just, hey, if you identify as that, I'll call you. It's just a,
that's a fair term, and yeah, totally. You know, because like I said before, I'm willing to compromise on a lot of my principles as an anarchist too.
Because you're pragmatic.
My main. Yes, pragmatic anarchist.
You live you live in reality. We only have so much time in our lives
trapped
to get
in reality.
Yeah. Well, I think it was a great place to end it. Just because I'm going close to 2 hours in, but I would definitely love to have you back on.
Oh yeah, dude. I'll give a call in again. We'll dish.
Cool.
All
Yeah.
right, talk to you later, man.
Sounds good, man. All right.
Thanks for having me on.
All right.
Take care.
See you, Nick. All right, guys, that was episode 6. I think it's a good place to wrap it up. We had, I think, just 2 callers and just me just talking about Owen Benjamin, but that was fun watching him compare his jokes to Dave Chappelle and Andrew Schulz, because those are also very highly reputable, they're very good comedians. Andrew Schulz and Dave Chappelle, very good comedians. So to see them do the same joke, basically, as Owen Benjamin, just goes to show how being controversial doesn't really affect how good you are at comedy. So thank you guys for listening or watching.